So this is actually today's important thing, and you should be very, very careful, very, very attentive about this section, because this is, you can say, one of the core things that you have to do in MS in your graduation. Okay, reading the papers. That's what every teacher tells you to do. Bring me 10 papers, bring me 20 papers, bring me 100 papers. Okay, we'll bring, and what we do, we just bring them, and we just try to just scramble them, read them, see what we can find out of them without having any goal in mind. The only goal is to submit the assignment and to pass the course. And that's why at the end, in the third and fourth semester, we are still without any problem statement or any clear direction. So this is very important. It's also a research paper, how to read a paper, a research paper. Okay, so two things I told you: always read critically, very minutely, go to very fine details, fine-grained details. Okay, always read critically, but not all papers. You do not need to critically read all the papers that you have downloaded. You have to read critically and constructively only those papers that you have chosen. And we'll discuss how to choose a paper for critical and constructive reading. So always remember two things. Whether a teacher gives you, okay, read this paper, you find it yourself, you get it on the web, whatsoever, you should always have in your mind that I have to read it critically. Why? Because you want to find further research directions from that paper. And you have to think constructively. Okay, I have found this criticism in it. I have found this shortcoming, this limitation in here. How can this limitation be overcome? How can I overcome this limitation? How this shortcoming may be removed? That is constructively. What should I do to improve it? What should I do to make this problem and its solution more useful in terms of research, in terms of paper, in terms of results? So two major aspects: read critically and think constructively. A typical researcher will likely spend hundreds of hours every year reading papers. We don't do it. That's why we are not researchers. It's a fact. Like me, any other faculty, not in a very highly reputed university, they do not spend hundreds of hours by reading papers. A typical researcher, a professor, a guru in an area, he will read almost every good paper that comes in his or her field. And that's the difference between us and good researchers. The only thing that distinguishes is reading, and reading appropriately, systematically. Find something out of it. Okay? Student must learn how to read, because how to read, it's not as simple as it seems. You have downloaded thing, read it, send it to the teacher. Yes sir, I have read it. If he says give me a summary, you can easily write a summary, but it doesn't end the things. You have to systematically choose and read the stuff, because it wastes lots of efforts, time, and actually drag us to frustration. Okay, I have read 100 papers, I'm still not clear what I should do. happens to almost every student, almost. Even if you are in third semester, you must have read at least 30, 20, 30, 40 papers. Because mostly teachers say, okay, you have to bring 10 papers, read this paper, read this paper, read this paper. After reading 40 or 50 or 100 papers, we are still having no direction at all. And that is a classical example of wasted effort, wasted time, and frustrated students. The reason being, we are not reading systematically. So, this is not the only way. Bear in mind, people may have difference of opinion in this approach. They may find any other approach more effective. You may even find some other approach more effective. But this is one of the effective ways to read papers. And when a professor, a renowned professor, says that this thing may work, this, then that thing has some weight. And this paper is by a professor in University of Waterloo, Canada, which is a very reputed and good university in computer sciences, specifically in computer sciences. Okay. So at least now we'll follow this approach until we'll find a better one. Okay. So papers should be read in 3 phases, in 3 steps. The first step will take 10 to 20 minutes of yours. You should take just a glimpse of the paper. So, in the first pass, the first step is quick scan to get a bird's eye view of the paper. Bird's eye view. Just go through the title, abstract, introduction, and headings. You are done. You are done. Okay? It's not difficult. But it's important. Because when teacher asks you, okay, download 10 papers, you just download 10 papers, okay, from a specific conference or from a specific journal, without realizing whether these papers will be useful for me or not. Because you are in haste, because you have to do lots of other works. So just download 10 papers. So today's work is finished. We'll see later. Don't worry. Just submit it to the teacher. Okay, here's these 10 papers. Teacher, what you should do is go through the first pass. So should take 10 to 15 minutes, maybe a bit longer, maybe 20, 25, 30 minutes to you, but it's worth it. Should gives you a general idea about the paper, what the paper is all about, what the things it's mainly discussing, and like what are the generic techniques and methodologies they are using, what is the problem they are actually specifically targeting, and what are their findings and results. So do what? Carefully read the title, abstract, and introduction. So you have to read 1.5 page, literally. Okay. Read the section and subsection headings. Just go through the headings. Okay, what headings did he give? For example, he says experimental setup, implementation. If there is a section or subsection, implementation, you will have something in mind. That guy has implemented it in a real test bed, or in a real cloud, or in a real lab, or on a real equipment. Or they say, for example, traces or the data set. So it means just by reading the heading, you will come to know that this paper has used some trace, some data set. So it might be of my use as well. Just by reading this, you may find this information. Okay? Read the section subject heading but ignore everything else. Like, do not go into the details. Read the conclusions. What conclusions that guy has found. Glance over the references as well. Why it is important? Because when you glance over the references, you may find something more important in the references, more related to your paper. And believe me, when you start doing this, looking at the references, your chain will become exponential. A single paper will emerge in 5, and 5 will emerge into 20, and 20 will emerge maybe into 100. Okay, it's important. So you have done, I told you, did you do the first pass? Yes sir. Okay, how about the 5 C's? This is now your job. At the end of first pass, you should be able to answer these 5 C's. If you are unable to answer these, it means you have not done your work. You have not passed the first step, first pass appropriately. So, number first is category. What type of paper this is? Is this a survey? Is he just formulating some stuff? Is the author only stating the problems and challenges? Or he has proposed some methodology? Or he just did the simulation, or he has proposed a methodology and didn't actually develop the proper test bed? Or did he implement all that? What is the category of paper? Measurement paper, analysis of existing system, description of research prototype, survey, whatsoever. Definitely, if you read the introduction, if you read all the headings, you will come to know what's the category of the paper. Context. Which other papers is it related to? Is this paper related to your field of interest or not? What other papers other people are doing? Which theoretical bases were used to analyze the problem? What are they doing? What's their context of work? Third, correctness. Oh, this is a tricky one. The third one, correctness. You may not find it fully over here. Do the assumptions appear to be valid if the guy mentioned the assumptions? For example, if he says, we assume that there will be no error or no device will ever give an error, it means this assumption is invalid. He says we consider that we have the infinite bandwidth available. It's an invalid assumption. Okay. This is a very important. Contributions. What contributions does the paper make? So contributions, in a contribution section, actually authors very you can say in a narrowed down manner tells what did they do, what is new, how did they extended the existing body of knowledge. So what is their contribution? Is their contribution really good, or they just mentioned it, but you know, you have read lots of other papers, other people have already done it. Okay. Clarity. Is the paper well written? This is also very important. If a paper is not well written, if the writing style is not good, it's really difficult to read and understand the paper. So these 5 things will, based on these 5 things, you will decide whether you should read further or not. Should you go to the second pass, second step, or not? So till here, after downloading the paper, you have spent about 20 to 25 minutes, maybe 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes, depending on your expertise in the area. Okay, you are here, and at this point you have to choose, is this paper important for me? Can I get something good out of it? Should I read it critically or not? So if you say okay, then you have to do it a second part.